Well, they did it. The DNC voted over the weekend and is now ready to shake up their party's primary season for 2024. They want a head start with an automatic win for Biden. South Carolina will now go first in the nation. It replaces the Iowa caucus. Next up will be New Hampshire and Nevada, Georgia, and Michigan. Now the early primary window as well. Critics point out the new calendar prioritizes states which favor President Biden. An op-ed, in fact, argues the DNC is rigging the primaries for Biden, saying the move will help fend off any potential primary challengers. South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn likes the move.
You should always update your policies and your procedures based upon the realities of the times within which you live. You know, there was a time when it was great for Iowa and New Hampshire and all of that to be first. But the fact of the matter is our party should reflect its demographics.
Fox and Friends Weekend co-host, we shouldn't miss out that a lot of Democrats and Republicans say Biden won because the man you just saw, Congressman Clyburn, delivered the black vote in South Carolina.
Yeah, and then that leads to the question of whether or not this move is a reward for South Carolina. Or, as you point out, and the Wall Street Journal has written, it changes the landscape of the game. It changes the process to make it easier for another win for Joe Biden. You know, Harris, to be honest, I don't have a big problem with consistently looking back on your electoral process and saying, does it provide the best voice of the people and give us the best representation for winning a presidential election? Iowa and New Hampshire have gained and maintained outsized influence for quite some time. But now when you do this process, when you say, let's make sure that it reflects the voting will of the people, ask yourself, for example, when it comes to Joe Biden, the Democratic National Committee, whether or not they are doing what's best for the people and their party, for that matter, in selecting a candidate, or what's best for Joe Biden, who's the leader of the Democratic Party. You know, Iowa might have outsized influence, but it's a different type of politics, and it's one that's not well suited to Joe Biden. It is retail politics. It's on the ground. It's hand-to-hand. It's not television advertisement. It's not deep pocket. So I look at this and I say, this was done, by the way, not for nothing. Like many things over the past 4 years when it comes to our electoral process, was done not in the best interest of the people, but in the best interest of a political party and a win.
That was going to be my follow-up question. I mean, what have we seen in recent years that really was done in the interest of the people when it comes to this sort of thing? And you just answered that. I mean, very little, if anything at all, that we can point to immediately with regard to who votes and how they vote and who goes first and all of that. If you're a Democrat and you think, like a lot of people who say that they think Biden really isn't their choice right now, including independents and Democrats, a large number of them, are saying they want somebody younger in particular. And we don't want to make this whole thing about age, but you can look it up in the polling. So what about somebody who comes along like a former Barack Obama or somebody that they might like in the Democratic Party? I guess that person just doesn't have a chance.
They have a much better chance. Look, I told you that I don't think we should just grant Iowa.
Rigging it?
I told you I don't think we should just grant Iowa and New Hampshire the place as the outsized influence. But they have an argument as well. So that candidate you just described, maybe it's a modern-day Barack Obama who doesn't have deep pockets, but is a good politician, has a better chance in Iowa than he does with hundreds of millions of dollars in television spending in South Carolina. Hey, and back to real quick the voting interest of the people, to your point, Harris, I want to look at the past and the future. First, the future. It's not in the interest of the people to have the Republican-Democratic primaries decoupled. It's best to have a voting day where the people know this is when, in our state, we pick our candidates. And this is going to decouple the Democratic and Republican primaries. But secondarily, you said it. Look, in 2020, we had massive mail. It's the biggest aberration of an election we've had in quite some time, right? Massive mail-in balloting, rules changed in the middle of the night. Some of them constitutional validity in question, for example, Pennsylvania. And it was done not to help the people, but to help Joe Biden. It was to help a political party win. The
argument was for COVID, and you can't make that argument now. And you and I both said the same thing. I think that if there were a young Barack Obama or whoever it would be that Democrats would love, all of that money going into South Carolina might not help that person, but it certainly helps Joe Biden. All right, both sides of the political aisle are urging immediate compliance from the DOJ. Senate intelligence leaders Mark Warner and Marco Rubio, bipartisan here, accusing the Biden administration of stonewalling investigations into President Biden's classified document scandal. On the House side, in particular, Intel Committee Chair Mike Turner said he expects a briefing on the classified docs this week, but added the timing is suspicious.
The Biden administration had not engaged at all anyone who was in national security on the issue of threats from these documents. It took Congress to step in and say, we want a security threat. And then they tried to deny giving the briefing to us from that threat. What's interesting is that the moment this balloon became public, I got a notice not from the administration that I'm going to get a briefing on this balloon, but they have to rush to Congress now to talk to us about Donald Trump's documents. You can see they want to change the news.
You can't change the news when an enemy flies a spy craft above your country for 8 days, but I guess they could try. Will?
We might want to have some conversation about some issues of actual substance, like let's see if we can look into the purpose, motivation, the intelligence collected when it comes to a Chinese spy balloon traveling the continental United States. It might be worthy of the top of the news cycle. But also on the issue of substance, Harris, hey, what's in the documents is everything, right? Look, if Pence and Trump and Biden,
yeah.
It's, you know what? Thank you for that correction. It's the only thing. If it's true that classified documents, the dirty secret of Washington is that they're not that well kept as far as procedure and secrets, then what matters is what's in them. Okay? What matters is what was inside that. And by the way, it's not disconnected from the story that they're beginning to cover it, Harris. They're beginning to cover a potential influence peddling corruption for the sitting president of the United States when it comes to a country who happens to be the one flying a spy balloon over the United States of America.
There you go.
It might be important what's in the documents.
You landed that plane. You brought it all together. And it's hard not to reach...
or the balloon.
It's hard not to reach, a destination at those questions about connectivity, especially when what we know was on Hunter Biden's laptop, dealing with China and deals with the energy company in Ukraine, so on and so forth. Always great to have you.
Hey, Harris, really quickly, and to make it nonpartisan, they said that the nuclear codes were in Donald Trump's documents. Let's find out what's in the documents.
Yeah, let's open it all. Absolutely. More words, not fewer. Will Cain, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.